All right, welcome everyone to our first session of what is going to be a summer of learning about business. So, to be very clear, we're not talking about how to publish a book, how to grow a business with a book, how to find an editor, how to build a book funnel, how to get reviews, how to market your book. That's not what we're talking about. Those are part of running a business in the publishing world as an author, a publisher, editor, all those types of things. But that's not what we want to do. Over the last year or so, or two, as we've had, or longer, as we've had people come into our different things, the questions keep coming up and coming up about how do I XYZ that are business things. And I've always kind of avoided them because I'm not an accountant. I'm not a business coach. I am not a lawyer. I am not all of these things, but they're important. Like as we're, and Hannah and I have talked about this a lot in conversations that we've had, both live and, virtual, but we've had the opportunity to be together in person and we've discussed some of these things like what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And really, all of us are entrepreneurs because even if you're thinking of yourself, I'm just selling a book. Well, y'all, have you noticed how just selling a book has gotten so creative? Like it's not just selling a book. So, Hannah, I'd love for you to welcome yourself to anybody who doesn't know who you are yet and tell us a little bit about your background and story. And then Hannah and I are going to chat business owner to business owner and hopefully impart some wisdom on y'all today.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you, Alexa, for having me here, and for everyone joining us, whether you're here live or watching this on the replay. You're busy people, you are running busy businesses, and thank you for sharing your time with us. I really hope you find this session helpful and valuable in your journey. So, if you don't know, my name is Hannah Jacobson, and I'm the founder of Book Award Pro. And our role in this world is to help authors find the perfect awards and the perfect reviews for their books. At this time, we also run the world's largest database of legitimate reviews and awards. And at this time, that's more than 11,000 accolades and counting. So it takes a lot of technology, a lot of working together to keep this really running smoothly. So that's kind of me and Book Award Pro in a nutshell. And Alexa, I know you're going to kind of dig down deeper into that later.
Yes, absolutely. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Alexa Bigwarfe, and I'm the founder and CEO of Write, Publish, Sell, and the Women in Publishing Summit, and Alexa's Publishing Chat, and Cat Baggy Press, and Purple Butterfly Press, and we're just doing a lot of things. But I started this as a mom with a baby on my lap, literally, while I was typing and doing things, and I had a vision, I had a dream, I had a really important why. And it's grown from that because I've adapted and I have an entrepreneurial mindset. I've wanted to find ways to run my own business and to be able to do all the things as a single mom with three kids and to through health issues and through all of these different things that have gone on, have control over my schedule and when and where I work and how I work and all of those things. So, but building, I have zero business training. I don't know if you know, Hannah, if we've ever talked about my background, like I was in counterterrorism and homeland security. So,
I mean, maybe that does come in handy in book publishing. I mean, there's a lot that you learn in that space.
you got to look out for those skeezy the bad apples out there, right? But no, but there's been so much that I have literally just kind of scraped together, figured out, made so many mistakes along the way, and sometimes that's great, but I really wish I could have spent a lot less time and money doing those things. And so as we've had more questions from people, I am really passionate about people embracing their book or their publishing business or their editing business or their self-publishing support or their review business or whatever it is as a full business and know how to do it in a way that they can actually run a business and not drive themselves crazy, right? So, how did you get started?
Oh, Alexa, I love by the way, just kind of the stories that you're sharing. I think so many of us have actually found ourselves in the book publishing space, maybe without, maybe it was luck, maybe passion really led you there. For any number of reasons, you may not have known that you would end up in book publishing, and I was very much the same. As a just as a human being, I love to read. I'm a reader, and I happen to really love book awards. I have since the time I was very young. My mom told me that even before I could read, even before kindergarten, I would ask her for help at the library to find the books with the gold coin on the front. So that was very opinionated, but I knew I loved book awards from the very, very start. So speaking of just kind of I think Steve Jobs says something like you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can
Mm.
only connect them looking back. And if I do that, I see that not only did I love reading, as so many of us do here, but I also, in college, I had the opportunity to work at a university press. And that was the first time, not as a reader, but working in the book publishing space, I got to see what does it take to get a book into an award. And it was really tricky. Honestly, I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit this, but I have faxed a book award submission, which is not fun stuff. The industry is very, in a lot of ways, there's a lot of laggard things that happen. So not only was it, confusing to kind of go through, but I really enjoyed the process. I liked figuring out that puzzle. And, after my time there had ended, after I graduated college, my love for book awards and my love for authors never left me. I saw what awards could do for authors. The press would publish authors who were incredible, they're experts in their fields, and something about winning a book award would unlock something for them. And that's sometimes what, Alexa, you and I have talked about this, but sometimes what I call the magic of book awards. So I say all of this because that really made a huge impression on me, and I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to do something where I could help authors find the perfect book awards for their books. So the very beginning of Book Award Pro was just me, and honestly, just working more of a consultant basis kind of thing. It was only me. I had a spreadsheet and some great research skills, and every book I would work with, I would manually kind of pursue the awards process. So it was very, very crafty,
Oh my
very, very
gosh.
small way to start. But that's truthfully, that's how businesses start. It's amazing to start, to look back and see I ran off of an Excel spreadsheet, you know, internet searches, and that's so unrefined compared to the huge processes and the huge industry that we have today. So that's a little bit how we got started. Zooming more into that, eventually I brought on my technology co-founder because I don't have experience or expertise in technology, and I brought on my technology co-founder, and he was able to pinpoint parts of my process that I could start to automate. The things that I didn't need to spend my time on, like, for example, copying and pasting. That's something that you don't have to do, but it still consumes your time. And by automating those processes, it left me more time and more brain power to do the things that computers couldn't do, to figure out which awards were really the perfect fit for which book.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how Book Award Pro started and how we kind of came onto the scene as a technology platform. We definitely did not start that way.
And the thing is, whether you are here, and you know what, actually, as we're talking here, I'd love to know. I mean, I know some of y'all really well, but not everybody knows it. Would you please put in the chat whether you're an author entrepreneur, whether you are an editor, a publisher, self-publishing assist, some type of other industry professional? I'd love to know who all we have in the room here. Book designers, editor, publisher. Good, good, good. We've got a blend of authors and service providers. And that's the other thing, that once you start learning your job as an author, it opens up the opportunities for you to start earning income through the skills that you have. And that's how I started. I started as a blogger dealing with the grief after losing our daughter. And then I wrote a book for grieving mothers, and I really enjoyed the process. But what I enjoyed more was I immediately saw, as people were coming and asking me, how did you do this? I want to publish a book. And y'all, this was back with Create Space, before KDP, with like awful templates, hardly any companies out there that were helping you do things. Even the people that were cover designers weren't necessarily very good ones. And it was like, it was back in the day, you know? And, but I taught myself some of these things, and I saw a way. I had three small children, one of them special needs, at that point in time, special medical needs. And I didn't want to have to leave my house or go back to work. I wanted to be there with them. So I thought, this is something I can learn how to do for other people. And so I taught myself InDesign, which was the most painful thing I've ever done in my entire life. And let me tell you, I charged $100 to do a journal for someone that probably took me 900 hours. I don't know how long it took, but it was forever. It was forever. When I'm saying I've learned some big mistakes now, I tell you what, I do not format. I pass that off to anybody anytime I can, to let people stay in their lane. But it's grown over time. It's grown, and there's lots of opportunities out there. But even for the folks that are, I don't want to say just authors, because we're not just authors. Think about all the things that you're expected to do on a day-to-day business. You are still marketing. You may be hiring team members to help you. You may be, doing invoicing, setting up events. You're doing PR and marketing and all these things. Like, there's a lot of things that you need to get some skill sets, if you will, so that you can operate better as a business. So that's a lot of the reason, a big part of the reason why we wanted to talk about that. And one of the things that is hard as you're getting started is you don't have money yet because your books aren't selling. So how do you get money to get in there? And this is something, the crowdfunding, that Hannah loves to talk about, I assume, because you're all excited when we brought it up. So tell us about crowdfunding
You
opportunity.
know, so when it comes down to when you're trying to fund your business, um, you may be looking at some options. There's different options out there. For example, Bookaward Pro, we were bootstrapped. So that means that I just took money from my own savings to start the company. And then what I did from there is, every dollar that came into Bookaward Pro went back into Bookaward Pro. And Alexa, you mentioned something like, you did this huge, huge project for $100. Pricing is notoriously difficult. And so you may find in the beginning that maybe you're not charging quite enough. And that's still okay. Whatever money that you're getting, if you go the bootstrap route, whatever money you're getting, put it back into your business, feed it back into your business so that you can grow it and nurture it. So bootstrapping your business is actually a really good option for, maintaining all of your creative rights. You don't owe anyone anything. You're kind of going it alone and you're funding it yourself. It can be a real challenge, especially if money isn't really coming in or it's not coming in steadily. And that's unfortunately kind of just part of it. Before we move on, Alexa, did you have anything to add to that?
The only thing I want to say on that is that, on the pricing thing, like, if I couldn't charge somebody for 900 hours worth of work that somebody who knew what they were doing could do in an hour, right? So you have to know, that part as well. Like, your pricing shouldn't, it should be based on the skill set and the time that a skilled person should be able to do it in, not on how long it actually takes. And that's a big thing you have to factor in. If you're going to teach yourself as a new skill, be
Yeah.
prepared for it to take you a long time to get it done. And sometimes that is challenging. So but yeah, the more that you can find odd jobs, and with freelance sites like Upwork and Fiverr and places like that, where you can start posting jobs or getting jobs, or even within our own groups being able to do some small jobs for people and building that up. Try to fund as much as you can from revenue coming in. Don't use your credit cards like I did. I took out a personal loan and I got credit cards, and those two things may have played a large role in my divorce. Amongst many, many, many other things. But, be safe, on money.
Those are really wise words, Alexa, because that, especially when you're going through, when you're setting this thing up, it's stressful enough. You're trying to figure out what are you offering, how are you setting this whole thing up, and the money part of it can be very stressful. So as much as you can, choose a model that best fits you and your needs, but also be mindful of how much is it costing, and don't let it become too much of a headache. Easier said than done. So kind of like on the opposite end of the spectrum, instead of bootstrapping your own company, you could also get investors. You could get people who are really committed to, they're interested in putting in money into your company. From a book publishing perspective, that tends to get really tricky.
Huh.
Book publishing is not a really, really recognized space in like a formal investor kind of situation. Like if you go out and try to find like an angel investor or something, that's tricky because book publishing isn't, it may not be profitable enough for them to currently want to pay attention to you. You may not have a solid business plan that's attractive enough to them. So you may find that your investors become people you know, maybe acquaintances, maybe family, maybe friends, and those relationships make money really tricky. Kind of back to your point, Alexa, money and relationships can be really tricky. So when it comes to investing, know that that's pretty tricky to navigate, and you also give up some of that freedom that you would have with bootstrapping. And I say that because when you take money from an investor, you also owe them results. So you're looking at things like you're giving them reports, maybe even financial reports about how your company is going, and those reports may not always look very good. You may not always have a lot of traction, and it can be really disappointing for you, for your investor, and for the relationship that you have with that person to not be able to show results. So I would, reflect on if you really want to go with an investor, really reflect on why you're looking for that and what that could mean for you. Alexa, do you have any thoughts about that?
I was just going to say that obviously that's going to vary from where you fall in this spectrum. So if you're on the author side, then the Kickstarter, the Indiegogos, the GoFundMe's, things like that, that's probably your best investor, quote unquote investor area, because it is fueled by friends, family, people who want to see you get started off. Whereas investors, you're going to be looking probably at farther down the line. There's going to be a whole lot of things that you're going to have prepared for them, business plans and ideas, projections, all those types of things. So probably not those that are just starting off their author business are going to look at. But there's so many things that I think even authors, even down to just I'm writing and I'm going to publish a book, need to be considering that does require some level of financial commitment. So even just things like having an email CRM, having a website domain and hosting, so that is your property in the internet world space. You need to have a website. You need to have some level, even if it's basic. Um, just any marketing dollars that you put behind it. I sat down and added up all the money that I've spent on editing of my books. Woo, that's don't do that. Don't do that. The editing, the formatting, the cover design, all the memberships, all the things, the conferences, like you need to come into this thinking of it as a business. And one of the things that I was thinking about earlier is this idea of what makes the biggest difference that I've seen with all the authors I've talked to in who becomes super successful and who doesn't. And generally, there's two qualities that I've noticed in the people that are super successful, and that is they have a huge backlist. They just keep writing and writing and writing and writing. Okay, there's three because I have to put in another category here. They have a huge backlist on the fiction, children's book, those types of things. And the second is that they treat their books like their business. Like they go out, they figure out. Now they may eventually hire people to help them or hire services like yours to go out and do some of the lifting for them, but they're running the show. There, it kind of breaks my heart when I have somebody who says, I don't want to take book marketing training because I don't want to be involved in that. I just want to hire someone. And the reality is, you can do that. You're not going to be as successful. I have not, I have yet to see an indie author who, now please call me out if I'm wrong on this, but indie, not by a big publisher or, big house, but an indie author who has completely outsourced their marketing, never touched it, never done anything with it, and is selling a lot of books. I guess the difference might be if you're having someone run a lot of ads, maybe that would be the difference right there, right? But so now I've sidetracked myself. Where was I going with that, Hannah? So you got to be involved in the process. You have to think of it like a business. Even if you hire people to help you, you have to know what your mission is, your vision, your goals, where you're trying to get, why you're running certain types of campaigns, test things out, try them. And then the third type of success factor is those who already have businesses and are using books as a revenue stream for that business. They're a coach, they're a consultant, they're a teacher, they're doing something, they're running summits and conferences, those types of things. So the days of somebody, well, they never happened. I don't think there's ever been a day where somebody just wrote a book and published it out there and it just boom was a huge success. Somebody put a lot of time, energy, and effort into every book that's ever sold well. So that's the thing. Like, it's important. And then for those people who are here that are the freelancers, the business builders, the author, the self-publishing assistant, the coaches or the editors, the book cover designers, all of those folks in the audience, from the get-go, you're figuring out how to streamline things. And Hannah, you said something so important before about systems and processes and automation. I mean, sometimes I'm a slow learner. And I always, about the 25th time, it takes me that long, Hannah, sometimes. The 25th time I've typed the same answer to an email, I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this. Maybe I find a way to do something better about this. So, finding the way to simplify.
Yeah. Oh, I know we're kind of like getting into like simplifying these
Yes.
processes and creating those because that really amplifies everything. Templates, baby, that helps
Yes.
because a template is something that you don't just, shunt out a template should be crafted. It should always meet the needs of your ideal, your customer, whether it's your reader, authors, other publishing professionals. It should always meet their needs and it should always be customized at the time that you're sending. Um, right before we jump into that, I think I wanted to just briefly cover crowdfunding
Yeah.
because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
kind
Oh,
of
we
the
skipped
sweet
that.
spot. Oh no, you're fine. No, this is beautiful. We're on a roll here. So we have bootstrapping, we have possibly getting investors, but kind of the sweet spots for a lot of authors, for a lot of book publishing professionals, is the concept of crowdfunding. And Alexa, you'd said something that as a business owner, you're testing things. You're always testing things and seeing how they go. The beauty of crowdfunding is that you can put out an idea, a product, maybe it's a book publishing service that you want to offer, or maybe it's a book that you're writing. Well, crowdfunding gives you kind of an easy way to see, is there a need, is there a want for what you want to sell? And how is your message resonating with your people? Is it clicking? Is it not clicking? And it's a very effective way that you can actually test out that idea and get traction, or if it doesn't get traction, learn from it. You can always, if you don't meet your crowdfunding amount, you can always kick it off again. Try it again. Try with a different message, maybe slightly revise your product. There's lots and lots of testing that goes into that. So that could be a very effective model for a lot of people here.
Absolutely. There's a couple things about crowdfunding. I did a Kickstarter for my very first book, Sunshine After the Storm. Just back in the day, I had quit my job before I got pregnant with the twins. So we went from two incomes to one incomes, three small children, one of them passed away. One of them had been in the hospital for a very long time. So that's my background. That's my story. Didn't have any money. So I wanted to just raise enough money to pay for the key things, the edit, the cover design, and I did the formatting, which is obvious. But
I will
anyway,
say,
so
part of that is part of being a scrappy business owner. And, now you look back at that as a mistake, but it didn't feel like a mistake at the time. You did what you needed to do.
and it also goes down to audience and what's necessary. The audience who it was for, I can guarantee you, nobody's ever said anything about the formatting. Now, somebody might have said, "Oh, that's weird. That page doesn't have a number, and all the rest of them do," or something. Like those things happen. But I've never been bothered about the formatting because the purpose of the book was to spread hope to mothers in their darkest hour, right? So eventually, one day, I will probably go back and fix it. But the point is, I raised about $1,200 through Kickstarter, just through my friends and family, and that was enough for me to cover those things, so that I to help me get that book out into the world. But if you truly, like, I was lucky because I found an editor who was so passionate about what I was doing, she gave me a massive discount. Well, always, always, always love her for that. And the crowd that I found a cover designer who wasn't really a true cover designer, learned some lessons along that way, but it didn't cost very much money, so I didn't feel so bad when I had to have it redone. But the things you learn, right?
Yeah.
And the point is, if you're actually going these days to publish a book that is going to stand out from the crowd and that's going to do what you need it to do, if it's your first book, you may need multiple rounds and different types of editing, and that alone can cost you 2,500 to 3,000 to $5,000, depending on how much you need. So you have to be thinking of these numbers in there and adding it all in. I would budget easily $5,000 for the publication of a book, if not more, depending on your genre. So the you have to, if you're going to use crowdfunding, like, that's a lot of work to get to raise that much money when you're not someone who's well known and all those types of things. So it's a great tool. You won't see as many sales on launch day, because usually with crowdfunding, what it'll be is you'll give a signed copy of your book for different donation levels, or you'll have different things, maybe they get mentioned in the book or whatever. So you have to recognize that it's a balancing act. Like, you may get money on the front end so you don't go into debt, but you may not see the same kind of sales, and you have to work on your advanced reader team and your other things, and getting those editorial reviews and trade reviews so that buzz is being created in a different way. And there's pros and cons to each one of them. But if you're truly stuck and you cannot afford to get the things done that you need for your book, then crowdfunding is a good option.
Yeah, Alexa, I really like, yeah, thank you for defining that more because when I'm looking at funding, if I'm seeing, bootstrap versus investing versus crowdfunding, I'm looking at that as how do I get this project, how do I get this company or this book out into the world? That's simply the way of funding it. But to your point, that's not, maybe some authors are really successful with crowdfunding and maybe they see a spike of sales, but often that's not the case. It's just a means of bringing your work into the world. That was a really, really good point.
And crowdfunding has gotten a huge a lot of people are talking about Kickstarter for these authors these days, because there's been such big success for it. But I want everybody to always remember the situation around the thing. So we're not talking about a first time author that nobody knows that went out there and asked and brought in $100,000. A lot of the authors who are bringing in that kind of money, or millions in some cases, are people that have already done the work of building an audience. They have true fans, and they're using that fan base to help them spread the word about either special variations or special print runs, or other things that are happening. So once you've done the work of building that audience, crowdfunding can be a way to help you multiply your earnings by doing special things along with your books, or special editions, special covers, painted covers, whatever.
You know what, Alexa, I'm dying to know. So for your first book publishing business, what were ways or what were things that man, because you're juggling so much at once. So you're trying to figure out how do you fund this thing? Like how do you get going? How do you stay moving? And how do you actually do the work? What were some of the tasks that you needed to do in those early days that were just really time consuming?
Oh, okay. Well, so those kind of are two kind of different questions because in order to make some money so that I had the money to work on my own projects, I started out actually as basically a virtual admin. I was in different blogging groups and in different groups on Facebook, and I started just looking for people who were hiring people to help whatever they need. I was a writer. I was a technical writer. I wrote briefings and or an analysis and all that kind of stuff. So I had a writing skill. So I started trying to find work writing blog posts for companies who needed content, helping. I worked with Catherine Ferris over at Marketex, helping her. She works with authors, coaches, and speakers, writing some of their social media, helping pitching the speakers, doing some different things like that. So I took on those types of jobs to bring in some cash. And then that way I had the money to do the tasks and spend the time. And the most time consuming tasks for me, I think, are the same things that are the most time consuming tasks right now: setting up my website, blogging, growing my email list. Now, I was doing everything and not covers. I've never done covers, never. I know anybody who's seen any graphic that I've ever created knows why I will never do covers. But I did do the interior formatting and all the things that came, but learning a genre. Like I don't, not authors do. I think a lot of authors and even publishers, newer publishers, don't put enough time in really learning the ins and out of their genres so much. I spent a lot of time taking classes, studying things, reading books, reading articles, going through programs, doing all those things because I wanted to teach others what I was doing too. And I knew I couldn't teach it if I didn't know it. So, like everybody's journey is going to be a little bit different, but I would imagine depending on where you're starting off, for those of you who are authors, you're in the world of learning your genre, learning your craft, getting better at writing. That's a skill that has to be learned and practiced and exercised, and it never stops. We're always getting better, right? And then learning the technology, learning the tools, learning how to set up an automation on our account for the freelancers. It's okay. This one was a nightmare for me. Learning how to invoice people and how to set
Oh,
prices on packages and how to bill people and how to get money from them, like all of those types of things. How to write a contract. All of those like yucky business things that are nothing to do with the joy of books.
you know what? Yeah, the yucky business things that have nothing to do with the joy of books. Those are the things, like in so many ways, those are the things that are just prime to automate and find ways that are simpler
Yes.
and more effective for your team to use. I really like too, Alexa, you brought in a point. You were actually working on your own education as well. So it's not just, figuring out how to start your business, how to keep it moving, but always growing and learning and educating yourself to stay knowledgeable and to keep deepening your craft. That's super,
Yeah.
super important.
Yeah. Right here, we got about $1 million of education expenses and time all wrapped in from the last 13 years right here, right? So I have to remember that when I'm when I'm valuing my worth out there. $1
Your work
million
is
dollars.
priceless. It's priceless. It's a
Priceless.
million dollars or it's priceless.
Or priceless, absolutely.
You
But no,
know,
it does. That's important if you're going to be a business owner. Like, okay, I want to give a perfect example that has nothing to do with books or business growing. Medicine. Medicine has changed so much in the last 20 years. But if you go to the doctor now and you are with somebody who was trained in the 70s or 80s, they're not talking to you about the impact of food, right? Even though if you're studying anything right now, you know how much food is a player in our health. What's in our food, I mean, it's, we've been through some interesting trends, but it's so there, you can tell the doctors who are keeping up with new things and are there and ready to help you. And this is important to me because I've had a heck of a year when it comes to medical stuff. So it's the same in any industry. You can talk to the people, you can hear it when they're being interviewed or asked questions on podcasts or things. With if you've got people that are stuck in public, still needing faxes, the Generation Z or Alpha or whatever the heck they call them now, they probably think that's a bad word. I mean, what's a fax, and why are you yelling that at me? Like, what would we, like, you have to be with what is happening right now and what's up, and be on top of it so that you can be there on the cusp when things change. And that's something I've always been super passionate about. Not learning to the point that it stops us from growing, but learning so that we are growing.
Yeah, beautiful, Alexa. Beautiful. I love, and it's so,
Thanks you. Thanks you too, John. Are you a John? Are you really John, or is that somebody's name that didn't get changed? I never know sometimes.
I feel, oh yeah, we have all kinds of interesting facts in the comments. Yeah.
Really John yet. Hey, John.
So when it comes to like just when you're starting your business, when you're figuring all this out, number one, you may not know what you don't know yet. You may not know that your website feels really tricky. And if your website is really cumbersome, maybe look at options like Squarespace, is a totally valid option. I think if I was going back in time and starting just all over again, the first thing I did, gosh, this was a bad idea, but I set up my website on WordPress. And WordPress is a great platform. There's lots of customizations you can do. It's beautiful. It's also very complex and it's very, very hard to make a website look really nice with that.
On
Um,
Word, I want to say something though,
oh
real
my
quick.
God.
Sorry to interrupt you, but
No.
I think WordPress.com is a
Mhm.
clunky, horrific mess. WordPress.org offers you a bajillion different types of things that you can do. And I didn't realize how different they were until one of my friends is running for US Senate. Woo woo.
Oh,
And I'm helping her with her website. And I'm like, I know how to use WordPress. And I got in her WordPress.com site and I was like, I can't help you. I have no
yeah.
idea what's happening here.
Yeah, to navigate.
WordPress.org, way better. Way
I
better.
don't think that I knew that. I'm gonna have to look at that. That's fascinating. So .org and
Way better.
.com, because the .com version, I definitely need. You can get a drag and drop
Mhm.
builder. One, for example, is Beaver Builder is one that I've used in
Yeah.
the past that I really, really enjoyed, and it made just this really, really empty space become approachable. But if I was starting all over again and not trying to design my very first website, I would probably honestly, there is a service, it's called Stripe Atlas. And
Oh, I've
if
never heard of
you,
this.
oh my gosh, yeah, so if I was starting like day one today, I would use Stripe Atlas. And if you look that up, Stripe is it's a solid, solid payment platform. That happens to be my favorite. I
Hmm.
like it above PayPal even. But Stripe Atlas, gosh, I think you can even incorporate your business using Stripe Atlas. I think they'll set you up a website. Stripe becomes your payment processor, and they make it really, really easy.
Nice.
If you kind of start out the gate with that, it makes it easier to continue to grow with Stripe as your preferred, payment processor. That's probably where I would start, just to kind of give me like a take care of the things that are so stressful and the things that I really didn't want to do in the beginning that kind of almost sometimes it felt like it weighed me down. I
Yeah.
would totally look at that.
I didn't know about that one. I want to say something about that. We use PubSite for our children's book company. That's a good one too. I've got a lot of thoughts, but I want to drop something in the chat really quickly. If you didn't see the email or you're not on our email list yet, or you're on the Right Publish Sell email list and didn't come on over here, aren't on the WIP list yet, all of those ifs. We just opened up ticket sales for our business boot camp. It's a 2-day event this is the kickoff freebie for you, if you will, but we have a 2-day event coming up, and only until June 15th, you can get $100 off. You'll still be able to get the ticket for $97 after June 15th, but it won't come with all the slides and the transcripts and the access to recordings beyond a little bit of time. So please, if you are interested in these types of topics, this is what we're talking about. It's not authors and publishers and editors coming to teach you. I almost want to say doctors. There's no doctors that I know of unless they're PhD doctors. Lawyers, accountants, bookkeepers, systems designers, people who help people grow and hire teams. It is the down and dirty, getting in the weeds of business stuff. I've been going through an entrepreneurship course, and I'm going to come with all of my cool new learnings and all those kind of things as well. So it's going to be great. Okay, back to the website. I just wanted to drop that before I forgot that, because as we get closer to the hour, I don't want people to miss that. But websites, at the end of the day, I can tell you what I love. Hannah can tell you what she loves. Everybody can say what they love. Try out a couple and see what you love. Because if you can't use it, or you're not willing to hire somebody to continue running it for you, it's not the right place for you. So now, that being said, you have to learn. There has to be a little bit of time for learning and all of those things. But it's that's the most important thing about the website, right? Because if you or someone on your team can't do all the things on it, then it's going to just be a nightmare. And the other thing I would say is make sure you own your property. So that's the thing with WordPress.com. You don't own your site. That's the difference between the .com and the .org. With the .org, you have your own hosting, you have your own backend, you have your own all these things. That's I see a lot of people dropping about BookBub. I had no idea. See, we're learning together today. I didn't know you could build a website on BookBub, but do you own it? If BookBub goes down, are you hosed? Are you able to sell your own things beyond books? Like if you ever wanted to sell, I don't know. These are questions I don't know because I haven't looked into it. But you want to make sure, hey Judy, you want to make sure that you own your property. And it's okay to start again. If you don't have the budget or the knowledge or all of those things in the beginning, it's okay to start small someplace, but don't build your house on a sand foundation. That's all I'm going to say on that one.
No, that's really, really wise words, Alexa. I think there are, truthfully, I think everyone here will probably agree with me that honestly, like this whole journey, it's about learning and trying things, and sometimes you're gonna like it, and sometimes you took a really good path and it's gonna work out fabulously. Other times, you will take a path and think, "Wow, I'm so out of my element here." Just keep trying, and that's truthfully, that's a very fun and very challenging part of being an entrepreneur. Whether you're an author, whether you're offering publishing services, you're still an entrepreneur, and there's a lot of really hard work that goes into that. So kind of give yourself grace, give yourself space to make those mistakes and to learn from them, and really take Alexa's solid advice to as much as you can. Um, you know, get a domain name that belongs to you, and then connect that domain name to a website, a platform that belongs to you. If you really need, kind of a quick and dirty way to get started, or maybe you just like to play with new tools, like maybe the BookBub website builder could be an option, but do know that that comes with some potential consequences, some negative consequences down the line. But if you can set yourself up for success right out the gate, it'll make your life a lot easier.
Oh
And
my
I think
gosh, Danielle, I'm a serial buyer of domain names. Every time I get an idea, I go buy the domain. You don't even want to see what the back end of my site ground site looks like with all my domains. It's nuts. Um, so okay, there's one thing you were about to say something. Did you have a
Oh
no?
no, that's beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do want to remind people, if you have questions, we're going to transition into the Q&A section here quickly. Um, so if you've got a minute to go on over to the Q&A box and put them the Serial Domain Registrars Club. We should talk about all the domains that we have and then how we can sell them. Um,
Yeah.
that in itself is another business. No, but drop your questions in the Q&A box for us if you have any. And I'm going to ask Hannah, totally off the cuff here. I know you haven't had time to think about it, but if you do you know what is the biggest mistake that you've made in your business that you're still like, oh,
Interesting. No, I love this. You know what? I feel like, and if you had asked me this 6 years ago, my answer would have been totally different from
yeah,
what it is today. Um, I will say that, huh, so far, every mistake that I've made, whether fabulously huge or, teeny tiny, everything is fixable. It may take you a lot of time and a lot of grief to make that fix, to make that change, but do know that if you stumble along the way, it's fixable. It's fixable. Alexa, I want to keep thinking about that. I love that question. There has to be something. I'm an imperfect person, so there has
oh
to be
gosh.
something.
Let me tell you, my list is so long. I'm actually gonna do I actually have planned out a webinar for my biggest mistakes along in my journey because I've made so many mistakes. Um, but you know what's kind of funny is that every time I pull out the well, there are some that no, I just wish we could completely undo and never have to deal with again. But there are some that if I hadn't made those mistakes, I wouldn't know some of the things that I know now that make me a much better publishing consultant and book marketer, right? So some of those mistakes I feel like are part of my words are hard for me these days, my rite of passage, I guess I would say. Like they I know what I know now because of those mistakes, but I would say the biggest worst mistakes definitely came around doing too big of things where I didn't know what I needed to know to do them. And I rushed in and then wound up wasting a lot of time or a lot of money. That and to be honest with you, I hadn't thought about it. This sounds like a planned sales pitch right here, but honestly, a lot of them center around, and I just thought of this right now, y'all, I promise, center around not knowing business concepts
Yeah.
and not knowing and understanding how I should be set up on a certain thing, how I should be um, doing my pricing. You know, I hired someone to come in and do an analysis of my program pricing and what was coming in and what was going out. And she was like, "Oh, Alexa," she's like, "You got to stop doing these self-publishing packages because you're losing like $3,000 to $4,000 every time you do them." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "You didn't factor in taxes. You didn't factor in all of the tools that you use for these. You didn't factor in your time so that your company, quote unquote, might have made a profit based on all the things that you paid out for this, but you didn't think about all these other things." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you're so right." So, but the learning is part of being an entrepreneur. And I went to this amazing conference out in Phoenix, and they were talking about all the mistakes that they made and how if they had stopped, and these guys are at least multimillionaires, if not close to the billionaire point that were talking to us at this conference. And they were like, if we had stopped and thrown in the towel when we had a bad day, when we made a mistake, when we lost money, when we lost whatever, we would not be where we are today. So I would that's my little like inspiration and hope for you. It's not easy growing a successful business. If it was easy to be a successful business owner, 3 out of 5 wouldn't fail. That's just one stat right there. So just the fact that you're here and learning is a good sign.
And I do have just a quick answer for you, Alexa. By the way, I love yours, which is yeah, absolutely. I think a mistake that I made in the very early days is I forgot to have fun, especially at
Oh,
the very, very beginning. And I found the fun along the way, and I can look back and see, oh, I did have fun. I had fun, at the time matching books to awards. I loved that. But what I wished for myself is that I wished I had enjoyed a little bit more the stress, the headache of figuring out, you know, a payment processor and, getting a domain name, things like that. I wish I had enjoyed it more
yes.
in those moments.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's a good point. It's hard to know when you're in it, right? And
Yeah.
I said something so profound the other day, and it's so rare that I say something so profound. So I'm just going to repeat what I said because I was looking at a picture. My baby boy just graduated from high school. Thank the Lord. We had a time getting there, but I had a picture of him and my nephew who are the same age. They're 3 months apart, and they both graduated from high school. It was a picture of them when they were about 3 years old, holding hands and walking down the driveway. And I wrote up this post, this big, beautiful post about how, that was just such a wonderful time. It was before we'd lost our daughter, before the kids grew up and went all through these hard things, before a pandemic, before all these things. And I said, I wish I'd known I was in the good old days when I was in the good old days. I wish I'd known that everything was perfect then. Um, and so I guess that when you said that, it just made me remember like there's a lot of frustrating pieces about what we do in particular, growing businesses, trying to sell books, trying to fund ourselves as we do all of these things. Like it's hard, but that's why I love the community that we've built too, because we have fun together. We share ideas, we collaborate, we support each other, we do all of these things, and it's one of the ways that makes the good old days, happier while we're in them. Like the hard days, good old days. You know what I mean? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
100%. That makes sense. And you're creating the good old days right now. I think that was a really, really beautiful point to make that, it's easy to look back and say those are the good old days, but we're
Mhm.
making that right now. And just to remember that when you're in the throes of all of this, give yourself grace and space to figure it out and have some fun along the way too.
Grace and space. You sound like you're a girl from the South. Um,
I am from Texas
oh,
originally.
well, there you go. Okay, we're going to answer some questions real quick to the best of our ability. I see that some of these are very specific. Amanda, are you still here? I am so excited to answer your question because I am also a veteran, and I want you to go. I'm going to drop this in here. I want you to Google IVMF. Amanda, if you're not familiar with the Institute for Veterans, and I always forget what the MF is, not with the M, it's not MF. IVMF, it's an institute for veterans and military families, I believe, and they provide all kinds of free training, free resources, free all kinds of things. That's where how I went to that entrepreneurship conference was through VWise, which is for female veterans and spouses and family members of veterans and active duty. So check that out. Anybody who has served or is married to or a service member or retired service member can use their services. So go check that out. But then for the freelancing stuff, so freelancing for writing, I think there are some Google freelance writing sites because there are actually some very specific freelance writing sites. And the other thing to look into is writing for like regional magazines. I used to freelance for regional parenting publications all over the place. They don't pay a whole lot, but it allows you to build, to practice, and to build a portfolio, and you can make a lot of money as you grow up in there. But there's all kinds of opportunities for freelance writing. Also, look at what's the Submittable? Is that the platform? There's writing competitions, there's all kinds of things. There's a big one happening right now. We featured it in our newsletter last week. The $100,000 writing competition is 1,500 words. So they're not even looking for huge ones. So look for those kinds of things. Okay. Domain names. We can both kind of cover this one if you want. Domain names. Would you recommend buying the book title as a domain or focus on your author name as the domain? I can
I
cover that one. Or
Yeah, I mean, I want to hear, I feel like you have more to say on that. I would honestly, I'd do both and then have both domains. I forget, there's a term for it, but you can have both hit your website.
redirect. Yeah.
Redirect, thank you.
I would always, always, always brand under your author name first and foremost, especially if you're going to be writing series and those types of things, because you don't want everything like, what if you write a second book, a third book, a fourth book, then, then you're sending people. Now, like she said, you can redirect, you can forward domains, so you can do that. If you have the money to keep buying for the book titles, you can, but under your name first, and then you can have that, and you can shift directions, you can put all your stuff out there. But if it's like your first book in a series or your staple book or something like that, then I would definitely go ahead and buy the domain name too, because people will search the title. So you want, and you then, and on your author website, just make sure you have lots and lots of good SEO around your title. Okay, this one's for you. You mentioned your growing your audience and reviews ideas. That's a very vague question, Peg. So, do you want ideas about how to grow your audience with reviews? Let's start there.
Yeah, interesting. So, Peg, let us know if this doesn't hit the mark for you. There's lots of ways that reviews can honestly promote your book. When you're first starting out, you want to get something between like maybe 2 to 5 editorial reviews, maybe 2 to 3 is kind of the sweet spot. And if you do editorial reviews, that markets your book to the book publishing community. So, publishers, booksellers, librarians like to see these professional reviews. When it comes to reader reviews or Amazon reviews, you really want to, secure those editorial reviews first, then spend the rest of your time getting those actual reader reviews, those Amazon reviews, to grow your Amazon page. That's how you increase your discoverability with other readers. So that's kind of a brief response. Alexa, would you like to add anything?
No, I think that's great. I mean, growing your audience as a whole. I mean, I teach a 6 month program about growing your audience. It's called Book Launch in a Box, and it's currently on sale. So if you'd like to know more about that, let me know. That's a big topic, and it's not something that we can boil down into a quick one. But to Hannah's point, like those, especially if you're a children's picture book author, or that one in particular, because librarians and retailers really like to see trade reviews associated with them. Like, this is where it comes down to, whenever I see a question like this, I'm like, it depends on so many factors. Do you even need trade reviews? That's question number one. Your reviews on Amazon are different from your reviews in other places. So there's best practices, and then there's specific strategy for you and your book, and it comes down to a lot of things that we don't have time to get into right now. Okay. Oh, yes. Are there viable options for grants for publishing manuscripts? Tremaine, I hope I said that right. Tremaine, I'm sorry. I hate messing up people's names. We actually have an entire session on grants and funding, grants in particular, in the upcoming session that we're having. So for $97, you get 2 days of experts in legal, in accounting, in grants, in funding options, in hiring, in processes. Yay! So it may be the best $97 you ever spend in your life, because if you get taught how to write a grant that brings in thousands of dollars, you see the ROI directly there. So definitely check out that. Thank you, Catherine, for dropping that link again. Is anyone else using Dubsado for client CRM? I know lots of people who use Dubsado. You probably are using something a bit more. I use 17 Hats. I love 17 Hats. I've heard good things about Dubsado. Y'all are probably using something a bit more. Do you have your own internal system for?
Yeah,
Yeah, I would
we
guess
just
so.
like for myself, I have an internal system, but I have heard good things about Dubsado. And what did you say? 17 hats. I haven't seen
17 Hats. It's a great tool, y'all. It allows you to do, it's simple, but you can do well, if you've ever filled out one of the forms to be a sponsor for the Women in Publishing Summit, or if you've ever filled out on Write, Publish, Sell, one of our lead forms, those came from 17 Hats. You can fill out real easy, forms that you can attach to projects, or quotes, or all those types of things. You can do quotes, you can do contracts, you can do invoices, you can do workflows, you can send emails, there's just all kinds of stuff that it's it has a lot of bells and whistles. I haven't been able to fully integrate it with all of the tools that we use, but it's a great tool. I really like it. What are folks using to schedule social media posts? Oh goodness, everybody drop your favorite in there. I use Raywin Sangari. She's my social media manager. I know she uses like Later or Capsho. She uses all kinds of things, but I don't know what all she's using.
I would say, Linda, we used to use Later. Currently, we're using Buffer. But no matter where you are when you're evaluating those platforms, they tend to change their pricing, every year or two. So look at pricing and see which plans are most effective for you because you may not need, some of the functionality that Buffer gives you, and maybe Later is a little less expensive for the plan that you need. So always look to see first what do you need out of
Yeah,
social media, and
yeah.
then see maybe can you get by with a free plan, or what's the less expensive plan that could really suit your needs.
I've done back in the day, it's been a long time since I've scheduled social media because I just hired someone. Um, but I used Smarter Queue, I've used Hootsuite. I've
Yeah,
used a couple different things across the years, but to your point, like again, it's what do you feel comfortable with? And all this Tailwind isn't a one that I know that Raywin really loves.
I forgot about Tailwind. I feel like if I was looking at it now, I would try to, maybe look at the top 10. What are other people using? And then kind of sort through and see what's the best for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hootsuite.
I saw a quick question. So the boot camp, the 2-day boot camp is it's a Women in Publishing Summit presents 2-day conference. So what makes that different is that it's not just for women. It just is presented by the Women in Publishing Summit, but we have some male presenters this time, and everyone is invited to join us. It is not part of WIP school. It is its own separate conference, its own event. So that's what we're talking about, and Catherine's been dropping that link. Yeah. So that's not to be confused with all of the other things that we're doing all the time. So for the Women in Publishing Summit, we will still do our event in March, but it'll be smaller. And instead, we're doing multiple 2-day events throughout the year to dig deep into topics. And we decided to start with the business growth. So our next one will be marketing focused, and that will be in October. Okay. So let's see. Do you own your own property or hosting with Squarespace?
That I don't know off the top of my
I
head.
don't know either. I,
Yeah.
I would I would guess you own your own domain and I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, Lori, I would look at Squarespace. Maybe it depends on which plan you're on, but you can find that information directly on their website. I wish I knew off the top of my head.
yes, okay. Yes, the grants and funding, Google says you own it. Thank you, Catherine. The grants and funding workshop is one of the lineup in this link. If you click on the womeninpublishingsummit.com, we made it very easy, business dash bootcamp dash 25. And I just dropped it in the chat. We will also send it out with the replay, so you'll have that link. And I will get it. I forgot to add it to the top menu of our events, but it should be on our website. Very easy to find that. And the grants, if you go there over now, you can read descriptions of all the sessions that we're having all 2 days. We have kind of a beginner track that's more, I wouldn't necessarily even call it beginner, but it's like maybe smaller business, where we're learning like the basics of business fundamentals, what type of business foundation you should have, those types of things, accounting basics, etc. And then we have some more advanced topics where Tyshina Davis, who is just the master of systems and processes, she's doing a 2-hour deep dive for those of you who are ready to grow your businesses. Maybe you're publishing or freelance or self-publishing assist or those types of businesses. So there's a track for both sides, for authors who are trying to learn business developmental practices, and then for those who have already started a business and want more in-depth training on business topics. So, yeah, but everything's out there. There's no surprise to what's going to be in the schedule if you check out that website. And Hannah, thank you so much for being willing to have this conversation with me. This came about when I was talking to her about us doing this, and she was like, "That's such a great idea. I love to talk about businesses. Let's have a conversation about it." And I was like, "Let's."
Alexa, I always, I always love our conversations, and I learn from you, and you learn from me, and we all learn from each other. And thank you for creating this space and this community to grow that and to do that.
It wouldn't be the same without you and with all of our attendees. So, oh, there's one more question. Oh, somebody squeezed in there. Is there anything specific you use AI to help you in your small biz workload? Oh, Beth, you want me to
Oh,
talk for like 7 hours now. We use AI for so much. I'm sure Hannah's whole company is AI. Well, not whole company,
yeah,
but
yeah.
tell us about it.
Oh gosh. So a lot of the tools that I started out using in the very early days of Book Award Pro were meant to just automate small, immediate tasks. Maybe, for example, a workflow in an email program. That's automation. That's some kind of AI. These days, we do have a software team, and so we build our own automations. We build our own platforms. So there's a lot of in-house things that we use. But just as a business owner, there's so many cool tools and options. I could go on forever about that. Alexa, I'm going to pass the mic to you because
Well, oh
there's,
my gosh, there's so many ways to speed up. Like when we talk about like how much time it takes you to do all the things.
yeah,
Chat GPT, I now call Ethel. Ethel is my new best friend. Ethel and I hang out a lot. I don't use it to necessarily like sit down and write my books, but I use it if I'm stuck. I'll be like, this is what's happening. What are potential next things? Like that's one way you can use it. But on the marketing side, holy schmoly. Listen, I have a children's book company. We have a bunch of titles. They've been out there published for quite a while, and I was looking at the Amazon sales page descriptions and I was like, some of these are really not awesome. So I went and I used ChatGPT. I grabbed the link to the Amazon page. I put in some very specific requirements and I said, search the web, find all the reviews that you can on this book, use this page link, the description, what you can find about this book, all the things, and help me write a better Amazon sales page. And so in 3 minutes per book, I was able to get refreshed keywords, category suggestions, new much better sales page descriptions because now it can pull from reader reviews and trade reviews and pull in all of those things and match it to what the norms of those are. So yeah, if it's been a while and you need to refresh your sales page description, that can be a tremendous help. It took me a full day to do our entire catalog. I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't like just a, but that would have taken me months to do if I was in there trying to rewrite every single one of them and doing all the thing. And the other thing is you can go in and you can ask it. I didn't realize we'd gotten some school library journal reviews on some of our books. I went out and I said, find all the reviews on these things, and it pulled back reviews I didn't even know we had on them.
wow.
So you can have it do some of that research for you. Um, yeah, there's just I know there's a lot of nasty things happening with AI in terms of stuff being stolen and inappropriately used and all that stuff. My position is AI's here. It's like the cotton gin. It came, it took jobs from people, unfortunately, but it changed the world. And people changed around it. And so everything it will. It's a new day. Don't use it for nasty things. Don't steal people's stuff, but get on board with the good things and let it work for you. Like there's
Yeah.
so many good things that can help us be more efficient.
Love it. Yeah, let technology work for you. Let it do the things that you don't want to do and save your time, save your energy, your brain space to be able to do the things that technology can't do. And there will always, always be a need for that.
Yeah. And like I hear John telling Trisha, let it, you can, what happens is the more, first of all, use the paid program. It's $20 a month, and it gives you more bells and whistles, more tools, and more protection, supposedly. They have now added a temporary chat. So if you don't want AI to hold your information, to store it, or to use it again, you can do a temporary chat. So let's say you're working on your book and you want to upload a couple chapters and get some feedback or what might happen next or whatever. You could do that in a temporary and delete it so it protects your information a little bit more. But the cool thing is, as you put in more content the other day, not the, as you put in more content, it stores the information about you and it knows more about you, knows how you change things, knows how you do things. The other day, I needed a new bio for something. I just went in and said, I'm going to be participating in this particular event. We're focusing on this thing. Write me a new bio that's through 250 words or less. Popped me out. Do you know how much time I used to spend crafting individual bios for every event?
Forever.
Too much.
Very time consuming.
Yes. So there you go. I think AI is great when used appropriately and responsibly, and hopefully the laws will catch up. We heard from at PubU this year, we heard from the director of the Copyright Office, and we talked about a lot of the things happening. So, you know, the advocates and the people that need to be fighting the fight are fighting the fight to make sure our works are protected. Um, but there's also a lot of opportunities coming our way too. So, okay. Wow, we've been going 4 hours. I mean, 4 hours. Hour and 14 minutes. But I hope y'all will join us at the event. Will you be coming and hanging out in case people want to ask you questions too?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be there.
Awesome. You,
Absolutely. And
Hannah
just,
will be there, and we're going to learn more. Come join us and make sure you get that before June 15th if you want to be able to access. Speaking of AI, we're going to take the recordings and things and do some fun things with them to have really good post-conference worksheets, etc. for everyone. So we'll see y'all there.
bye. Good to see you, Alexa.
Hannah,
So
good to see
awesome.
you too. Bye. All right, here we go.